The piston metering head basically works with a piston pump principle. So we have a kind of cylinder, we have a piston, and at the end the amount of dispensing material is defined by the diameter of the piston and the way the piston makes in the cylinder. Depending on the mixing ratio of the material, we have different sizes of pistons. In that case, for example, a very small piston for the hardener and a bigger piston for the resin. So we have a rough first configuration according to mixing ratio and the piston diameters. The fine adjustment of the mixing ratio is made by the way the piston moves in the cylinder at the end. Depending on the mixing ratio, we have two different sizes of the cylinders. So here's a cylinder block, and depending on the mixing ratio, I have different cylinder inserts, and depending on the diameter of the cylinder, I can adjust the amount of dispensing material which were dispensed with the piston metering head. So the piston metering head itself is divided in two main parts. We have the part which contains material, so all the cylinders and the valves, and we have the lifting or pressure unit. The pressure unit is pressing the pistons through the cylinder at the end and defines the movement of the cylinders during dispensing. According to our standardization concept, we only have a certain range of pistons. The detailed adjustment of the weigh is then realized by the precise movement of the pressing unit, which is driven by a servo motor. The process of dispensing would be, we have here the lifting units, which presses out the cylinders. So the pressing unit moves upwards. The inlet valves in the valve block opens and the material can flow into the cylinder and presses the piston upwards until he reaches the pressing unit. The cylinder is completely filled and the control unit get the allowance to start the dispensing process. And then the inlet valves closes and the outlet valves opens, and the both servo motors starts moving and pressing down the cylinders a little bit differently in speed depending on the mixing ratio. The cylinder block looks like that one. It's the open cylinder block. We have quite big inlet valves. It's a ring valve, and they are just pneumatic driven. The material gets through that valve. When the valve is closed, piston presses through that hole and closing the hole. If it's open, the piston moves a little bit away from the hole and material can flow from one hole to the other into the cylinder, which is up on the upper side of the valve block, and then inlet valve closed, outlet valves open, and the material can get pressed out to the outlet valves. One of the big advantages of a piston metering head is that we have always the material divided in the system. So in the piston metering head, the hardener and the resin don't get in contact to each other. Even the outlet is still divided, so we have one outlet for the resin and one outlet for the hardener, and only in the static mixing tube the two components get together and were mixed to get a homogeneous mixture at the end. So after production, it just can remove the mixing tube, cleaning the outlet, and that's it for the production day itself.